Hey, I'm Gray.
Hey, I'm Sen.
And welcome to Unscripted Drop Ins.
Today's topic is about...
My transgender identity.
You heard that correctly. So Grayson is a transgender male. He has switched from female to male as of 2021.
2020.
Okay, well, 2020.
I think. I'm pretty sure, because I think I started August 2020.
Whenever you started. But today we have some questions. Well, I have some questions and kind of more or less like what I want to know regarding Grayson. We have been friends for quite a while now. So I'm more so looking to get to know you a little better, friend.
Okay, let's do it.
So my first question for you is, when did you transition?
Well, I officially took my first shot on August 7th, I believe, of 2020. And so I just had turned 20 years old. So pretty much my entire adult life, I've just been going through this journey, just making it happen.
Good to know, good to know. So you were 20 when you decided to transition. That's quite young. How did you feel about doing all of that and kind of making that the forefront of your life?
Well, really, I just decided that I didn't like who I was. I didn't like I didn't like trying to present as something I wasn't. I really was just not happy with the way I looked and the way that I felt, and it just brought a lot of depression and anxiety along with it until I finally realized who I was meant to be and what I wanted to look like. And
right.
Once I came to that realization, it just started moving along real fast.
It just happened for you.
Yeah.
You got comfortable is what you're saying.
Yeah, I decided, I think really the first thing that kind of triggered the realization of wanting to transition was I was kind of sitting there with my friends and being like, what would my name be if I had transitioned? And so I really started to think about it, and then I thought of Grayson was actually one of my first names that I thought of. And so,
Very
even
manly name, to be honest.
I loved it. And it was just something that had never, ever left my mind. It was always, oh, my mom bought me a baby name book. And, I read the entire thing for males' names, but it was just nothing ever compared to Grayson. And so I was like, I gotta go with it. I gotta do it.
It just felt right in the moment.
Yes, sir.
That's very nice, very nice. See, now as a woman, I can't really tell you if I really feel any different, but changing yourself pretty much is a solidarity. You really gotta be willing to go for it. Mm-hmm. So my next question is, did you notice any physical changes from when you were, a young tyke, as they would say, to, wanting to transition into a male? How did you really notice anything?
Well, I mean, besides the first time that I cut my hair, I want to say the first thing that I really noticed was actually bottom growth. And then,
that's wild.
Yeah, and then my body hair took a second to kick in, but once it did, then it just started coming full-fledged. And then, so you could see my hair growing up all the way onto my hands, and obviously on my stomach and chest,
You're
and legit everywhere. Yeah, legit every inch of my freaking body is covered in hair now.
That's good though. I mean, women don't grow that much hair. I mean, we can, but you've got a full flippin' fursuit at this point, so you've really got to commit to it.
Yeah, and it's there's it's little things like that too, where females are expected to be clean shaven,
feminine.
Yeah, and stuff like that. It's I don't even have to worry about shaving now. I could just go with the excuse I don't have to shave because I'm a man. Men don't shave.
You don't gotta go anywhere. You're flipping warm in the winter.
I know. I got a full pantsuit on every time I go out. So.
You're lucky. You're very fucking lucky. I can't tell you how lucky you are.
I know. Every day I'm like, wow.
But then when it comes down to going into the barbershop, do you pass?
I will say I've not been in the barbershop. My sister cuts my hair. But
right.
I've really been wanting to go in. I mean, everywhere else I pass, everybody says, sir, man, whatever.
Move it, homo. I'm just kidding.
I know, and it's so weird. Whenever, like, just ringing out at, like, a cash register, someone's like, all right, your total is, whatever, sir. And I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, I passed now. I finally look like a man.
I freaking love it.
Honestly, that's, like, the best part.
Mm-hmm. One of the defining moments was, like, at work, and, like, one of the few times that I was on camera, I was just letting my beard just grow. And, like, there's not...
Full-fledged now, by the way.
Yeah, there's not a lot of men that work in a call center with us, so the very few that,
that actually do.
Yeah, it was really cool to even have, like, their validation, be like, wow, Grayson, that's a nice beard, man. It was like, I was on the moon. My euphoria just was blazing at that point.
I think it's one thing for, like, people out in public to know that, you pass and everything, but your workplace kind of, like, solidifying that identity for you and kind of being like, hey, he is who he is. There's something different. And especially when we're not even in person.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel now as a almost fully there transitioned man? You're taking the testosterone, you've already had your surgery. Are there any changes that you would, make aside from maybe bottom surgery?
Yeah, I mean, bottom surgery definitely is in the future. Mm-hmm. They make you wait for a lot of different reasons.
It's hella fucking expensive.
Yeah, it really, yeah, I got to take the time to save up too. But, I mean, I just had my top surgery and I still got a little bit of, like, redness, so it's not like you can't tell.
Right.
But, it's like this weekend I got to swim without, like, a bikini for the first time. And it was the it was the coolest freaking experience, and it was just like, I don't even have to worry. You
don't have to, like, my chichis are cold.
I know, I don't even have to, like, because the last time that I swam was right before I had my top surgery, and it was like, I looked like a full-ass man, like, beard was growing, yeah, and then I just had to have a bikini top on while I swam, and it was not it.
People at the beach are like, who is this?
Thankfully, I never swam in front of, like, the public. It was just my family, but it just, like, finally coming, to feel like my chest feels like the way it's supposed to feel.
Feels like home.
Yeah.
You're flat now. You finally feel good about it.
Yeah. And I just feel like I can just, like, do anything now, really.
Do you still feel your breasts are still there, though? Like, it doesn't feel like there's anything there? No. Like, you don't have any, like, what do they call it?
A phantom feeling?
Yeah.
No. I thought I was, because there had been a lot of guys that said that they get, like, really itchy, like, real deep in their chest. But I never really had any of that. The most itchiness that I got was just having to sit in the binder and, like, be laying on my back and, just being not able to move.
Right.
And it was like, I would get hot and sweaty, but that was really it. And once, I started healing and not having a shirt on, it just feels right. Like, there's no weight there to, like, feels like it's literally breaking my chest open. But it's like, just knowing deep down in my heart that this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is what it's supposed to feel like, at least for my chest. Bottom still has a long way to go. I mean, that's not something that I get to show. Like,
right.
Like, I get to show my chest. I don't have to show everybody,
obviously,
for good reason. But that definitely is, in the near future. And as soon as I got my top surgery, it was like, now that the top feels and looks like what it's supposed to, I had immediate, like, bottom dysphoria. Yeah. And I was like, I need the bottom surgery stat.
Before your transition, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad was the body dysmorphia? Like, what did you think of, like, everything beforehand?
I mean, I obviously, like, hated, especially my chest, like, really... lower region wasn't a big problem at the time, but it was like, it wasn't even the thought of, like, I'm trans, so I need to not have boobs, but it was just like, something up here is not right, and, like, something needs to change. I just wasn't happy, like I said, with the way that I looked, the way that I was feeling. Being trans wasn't something that was on the front of my mind, but it was something really deep back there, and something that I really had to think about. Like, am I trans, for it to really come out and start, rolling. it had just been a long time coming. I mean, when I finally sat down and started thinking, like, am I trans? I started thinking a lot back to when I was little, and, like, you know, my mom was like, I don't want to be buying you boxers. Girls aren't supposed to wear boxers. You know, like, I always wanted the male clothes. I played, like, I mean, pretty male dominated sports, but I still, a lot of super feminine girls really looked down upon me almost. And I knew I knew something wasn't right. And I knew, like, I thought at first it was because I was gay. Right. And so, you know, it was like kind of like, oh my God, she is gay. Like, you know, she's that whole thing. Little,
you know, she's not preppy like the rest of us.
Yeah, she's fruity. But no, and it was like, I had always known I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't like, I know I'm trans. That part came a lot later and took a lot for me to sit down and think about before it happened. So
you kind of gotta really make up your mind ahead of, like, schedule, really.
Yeah, and I used a lot of resources online. I know me and you talked about it, you know, the thing where it was like, I saw this one trans guy who really was like, I'm not going to tell you, you know, my journey because everybody's different. Right. But it was something that, like, I wanted so bad just to be like, you know, I need to know if what I'm thinking, if what I'm feeling is something that other people are thinking. Because I think that's just human nature. Right. Is, you know, like, is anybody else going through this? Is who else feels like this? You know, that type of thing.
Kind of ahead of that as well. People who don't really talk about their experiences with, like, wanting to transition, how is anyone else supposed to know kind of the general synopsis of, you know, it's, I mean, it's different for everyone, but when you have other people that are going through the same exact feelings that you are and that are trying to figure out, is this how I feel? Is this, like, valid for me? People who don't really give their experiences with it, I mean, why else are you talking about it? Why are you bringing it up?
Yeah, and that's the one thing that, like, I really thought about too. Once I came to the whole realization that I was trans, was, you know, like, I completely respect his reasons because it is, you know, nobody goes through the same journey. Yeah. And I completely realize it and accept it. But it's like, one of the first things that I thought about when I started was, like, totally want to be making my voice heard and like just putting it out there because there are a lot of, you know, other trans guys who are just trying to figure it out, and
There's totally a lot of young trans people.
And it's like, it, like I said, it's human nature just to wonder if people are going through the same thing. And so I really always wanted to make it a point of being, like, super open about my transition because I know there are so many people just like me who had the same, you know, like, I just want to know, I want to hear your story, like, and it's just like not to be invasive or want to base my journey off of theirs, but it's like, I just want as much information about the topic as I can because it is, like, it's crazy, you know, and you go through a lot of different things in the real world and, you know, with, like, haters and, like, all that kind of stuff, but it's like knowing how to manage it and kind of, like, understand it, I feel like would make it, like, a more successful transition.
I agree very much to the extent of, you know, being your friend and kind of like, because we became friends at the latter part of 2020. So it's kind of like, I've only been around for a little bit of the journey, but seeing and knowing and hearing what you go through, because we talk on a daily basis. There's no, oh, you know, we go through a week without even talking, so I don't even know what you do. You know, the same thing with me. Like, being your friend and kind of going through, like, the journey with you and knowing. I have drag friends. I have those type of people that are around that, like, you know, they dress up as women and they flaunt their stuff and they're gay and they're fantastic and they're amazing, you know. I've never had that type of person in my life that's transgender. They're going through it at the same time that I'm around. And, you know, I get to be a part of that sort of journey. So knowing you and kind of understanding more of what you go through on a daily basis is, like, interesting. It's just cool. And there's not a lot of people out there. I mean, there's probably, like, a lot of people out there that friends of trans people, but they want to know how to help. They want to know how to, like, be so judgmental or kind of put off by the idea of their friend being trans. It's really hard to go into that mindset of, okay, well, I have a trans friend, but my parents can't know, or my other friends don't approve of it. Like, it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, it kind of does.
Yeah, and I mean, that's completely valid. Like, you wonder how many people actually go through something like that, where they're not trans, but they're trans, or they're friends with a trans person, and it's like I kind of have to hide my friendship with them.
Yeah.
Because then, speaking on the topic of being transgender, like that is something that could totally like flip the script for you. Why my friends can't even be my friends in public because it's so widely hated on and unaccepted, and
It's very transphobic.
yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people that are still out there that are very much transphobic. And
Right.
there's, like I said, there's so many factors that go against trans people that it makes it hard to talk about and hard to explore. Because, you know, I feel like you can't research being transgender and like your transgender identity without seeing hate. And that is completely and totally so hard to look at. Because I mean, I was completely guilty. Like when I first started researching it, I would look on a lot of like the news pages that I have on my Facebook about other transgender people, like, you know, a story about a transgender
Right.
like athlete,
Yeah.
and seeing
Completely judgmental.
yeah,
of them.
100% of those comments were transphobic. And I sat and I would read through like as many as I could. I think a lot of other minds, you know, like a lot of younger people who are trying to figure out their identity are so malleable, like in their mind,
Right.
to where that would be completely off-putting, and then, you know, they wouldn't want to be who they really were meant to be.
Right.
And so the thing with me too with that is not accepting and not realizing in the first place who I was meant to be, who I wanted to be. That brings on so much depression and anxiety that it keeps you, I mean, it keeps you in a box, essentially. Like, you don't want to accept it, you don't want to think about it, but it's like becoming...
It's like the first thing that's in your mind, pretty much.
Yeah, becoming the person that you are meant to be and who you want to be is such a relief on your mental health. That's a huge part of it.
It's like a self-serving gratification, almost.
Yeah.
I hate the world, but at the same time, I love the world because then we get to learn so much. But at the same time, it's what you just pointed out. Like, there's so many young kids out there. There's so many people out there that are like, they're not exactly transphobic per se because they want to learn, but they're more or less like you said, they're malleable. They're manipulative. There's very much of like a whole divide of like, how can you best settle that? In a way to make sure that, you know, who you are is who you are. It's very much of a difficult structure.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop the hate and you can't stop the transphobic comments or like the people that are just against gay people in general, but what you can pretty much do is just be like, open to it. Don't be such a little pussy about it. Be open to the idea of people that are different, because not everyone's the same.
Yeah. And I think what goes hand in hand with that too is realizing that like a lot of people are gonna hate on you just because they don't know. Like, that's a lot. I think that's a lot of the reason why there are so many transphobes, is because, like we were talking about, they're so uninformed and they have no idea what's going on. And so the easiest thing to do is to talk shit on it and push it further and further away, you know,
Push it
like
behind the door.
Yeah, one thing that I really do pride myself on is really having that thick skin to be like, you know, they don't know anything about me, they have no influence on my life, but not everybody's going to be like that.
Right.
The same thing with these younger people or even older people that just aren't as set in their ways to be who they want to be, are gonna let the haters and, you know, them affect their decision to transgender or to transgender to like transition. But I think you really do have to have a thick skin to be able to realize this is who I want to be and nobody's gonna tell me different. And it is like a really, really hard thing to accept and come across, but I think it needs to be done like at some point for you to be successful in your transition and to really live authentically and as you want. And that's the biggest thing with being transgender, is saying no to what you don't want, saying no to the haters, and just letting it happen. Just let it flow out of you. It is such a fucking beautiful thing, is just people being themselves and being so unapologetic about it. And I think that's what needs to happen.
That's a beautiful person right there, to be honest. Like, that is such an idealistic, beautiful person right there. Having the motivation, the go-getter attitude, the I need to accomplish this, all because I want to become who I want to become.
And even those that aren't there yet, there's nothing wrong with that. But
you'll get there.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot.
It takes a lot of self-discovery and, at the end of the day, realizing what you want. But those that just say fuck it and do whatever you want within, I mean, good reason, because there are a lot of kids who are still living with their parents, obviously can't do it as freely, but there's certain situations where you just have to realize, like, just don't think about it, just do it.
So let me ask you this now. I know I've said this is like my last question for you, but I'm clearly not done. When you came out to your parents, number one, I know you said that your mom she didn't want to buy you all the boy-looking clothes, boyish clothes, whatever. So she obviously had a little bit of like an intel. Is my daughter actually becoming a man, or is she just a tomboy?
And I think that's where we settled on, is just the tomboy thing. But when I came out as gay, she was completely cool with it, and then I was so scared for so long for no reason to come out to her as trans. But once I did, it was like, she was like, I knew when you cut your hair. I knew when you just really stopped, like, I mean, she didn't say, but it was really like when I stopped giving a fuck.
You dress how you want to dress.
And
you look how you want to look.
Yeah, by the end of like high school, I was dressing the way I completely was what I wanted to be at the time. Like, I dressed how I wanted and all that, but it was just like the feeling of I don't want to present as a woman. Was finally like the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess. And then once I came to that realization and really just told my immediate family, I didn't really have to tell anybody else. It just started happening. I changed my name. I fucking cut my hair, started dressing especially the way I wanted. Like, now I have no restrictions on my style. I can play around with my hair. I can play around with my facial hair once it gets to that point. But it's like the possibilities for me right now are endless. Like, and it just makes me so happy to be at a point in my transition right now too, where I'm happy. I'm happier than I have ever been in my life. And I know the most evolved part of me is gonna, happen once I finally go through with like bottom surgery and everything else that needs to be done. But after that, I already know I'm not gonna be happier, because it's who I want to be. It's
your whole
I am.
pride right now. It's you.
And yeah, I mean, as you could tell, I freaking love talking about it. I could talk about it for days and days, because it's just like, one thing, I want to give as much of my knowledge and put it out for other people who are, stumbling across the idea or who have been thinking about it. But at the same time, I love where I'm at. I love myself.
It's cancer.
It's the Leo in me. No, but yeah, I really couldn't be happier. I'm so set in my life right now. I couldn't ask for anything else, really.
Aside from a Porsche taken, thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if you wanted to give me some money.
You're feeling generous.
I could always use some more.
Honestly. No, but I'm happy for you, because, like I said, I haven't known you that long, but, like, I know that our friendship is pretty much flourishing. I'm gonna cry. No, I'm just kidding. So, I'm really happy for you, especially because you are who you say you are. You're authentic. You're you. You're not anyone that's pretty much just bullshitting and saying that you're only transitioning because you look like a man, or you feel like a man, or, I mean, like, you feel like a man, but
that is a big reason.
That's one thing right there. But you're authentic. You love you. You represent you. You're not afraid of you. The only thing that's stopping you is this money.
It's the money in this bag I need to get. No, but I think that really is everything that I wanted to say in this episode. And I mean, if it really was going to be the only takeaway, is not only finally putting my story out there, is the openness that there is such a fucking beautiful community within like the LGBTQ plus community. There's so many allies like Sen Senia here, and so many people willing to support you. You just have to find them.
You gotta reach out. Reach
and
out. Do what you can.
Yeah, and there's so many support groups out there for so many different backgrounds, and like for everything that you want to be in any way, there's a group out there. Or there's people willing to listen to you and support you. So, like, if you're gonna take anything away from this episode, just be unapologetically you. There is nothing wrong with it. You're gonna be such a beautiful person once you come to that realization and once you finally put it into existence. Because there is nothing greater. There is nothing greater for your mental health to not hide who you are. There's nothing better for your physical self to just be looking and feeling the way that you want to and presenting how you do. And there's nothing I can say but just don't be afraid to be yourself. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. There's so many resources you can look at, even our show. I mean, we would always be happy. I'm going to speak for myself and say...
He would always be happy. He doesn't want to include me. No, I'm just kidding.
But I am so willing and happy to talk about myself and especially my journey. If you have any questions for us, for myself, for Senia as an ally, either... anything and everything that you guys have questions for us, we are totally willing and ready to put it out there.
Open arms, open everything. Mm-hmm. This is a family channel. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, if you guys really have any questions or anything going on in your mind,
just want to talk about it in the comments, we're willing to.
Yeah, we love talking to each other. We love talking about each other. We love talking about ourselves. We love talking about anything and everything. For me, especially concerning a topic that is so near and dear to what is literally myself. Yeah.
Like right now, it's essential.
I mean, in this generation too, we're just becoming more and more ourselves. And it is so freaking, I love it.
Flower, bitch.
Mm-hmm. This generation does not fucking care what anybody says about them
anymore.
Okay, boomer. But, I mean, did you have any other questions for me?
I don't. But I really think that was a great topic that we talked about.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you did that. And especially for it to be our first episode, essential, key number 1. Mm-hmm. I think we can check that off, to be honest.
For sure. I think this is...
beautiful start.
Yeah, it's a beautiful start. It's probably going to be one of my favorite episodes, even though it's just the first one. And I think I'm biased because it's about me.
A little bit. No, just kidding. I'm happy that's our first episode, mainly because I've kind of wanted to ask you for a long time. Mm-hmm. So, like, this plus, like, everything else that we have planned, boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
This is going to be
bonus.
Yeah, this is going to be a wonderful channel, and
We're
really hope.
We're so excited for you guys to like join us on this little magnificent journey. We got to figure out some other stuff, but that's besides the point.
But I really, really hope that a lot of people stay with us, and I mean, even from this point forward, stay with us to watch us grow. Because that's what it's all about. We're here to keep just going up.
Vibes, bitch,
growing,
vibes.
Yeah, but anybody who wants to stick with us on this journey,
let us know.
Here. I mean,
subscribe, hit that like button,
comment, give us comments and questions, give us more stuff to talk about, because that's what's going to make us thrive. It is, talking about the topics that everybody wants to know.
Facts. Give us some topic suggestions.
Yeah. And we can talk. We'll talk about it. It's going to be all unscripted.
Unscripted with Gray and Sen over here.
It'll be fun. I think that's it to wrap up our first episode.
We did it, bitch.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.